it that we know who we're voting for and what they stand for. I wanted to take just a moment and explain the format for tonight. We'll start with the representatives. Kyle South will speak first, and then Daniel Bowman. And each speaker will speak for 10 minutes of his own topics. Then we'll have 5 minutes of questioning. So the speaker will speak for 10 minutes, 5 minutes for questions to that person. The next speaker for 10 minutes, 5 minutes for questions on that person. I hope you had an opportunity to put questions in, and we'll get to as many as we can. Do as many as we can. Then the superintendents will follow the same process. Speak for 10 minutes, questions for 5 minutes, and then I will have some closing comments. I just wanted to let you know that Delta Kappa Gamma, the sponsors of this forum, is a international teachers organization. And the mission statement, the Delta Kappa Gamma Society International promotes professional and personal growth of women educators and excellence in education. One of our purposes is to inform members of current economic, social, political, and educational issues so that they may participate effectively in the world society. And we want to know what our elected officials think. It is part of our organization to be educated in that way. And so we've been in an organization for 85 years and getting stronger all the time. So if you are a member of Delta Kappa Gamma, would you please stand? Thank you very much for coming tonight. If you have any connection to the field of education, you're married to an educator, you are an educator, you hope to become an educator, you are a retired educator, would you please stand? And I know, looking across the audience, that if I had said if you are the parent of an educator, we would have probably got the rest of them. So, okay. We are ready to begin, and I wish the speakers good luck. Enjoy it. These are intelligent people, and I can't wait to hear what their questions are. You can either, I'm sure. All right, thank you. And first, we'll start with Mr. Kyle South.
All right, can everybody hear me okay? Because I don't think I want to use the microphone. I don't think I need it.
Sometimes they're a nuisance.
Yes, so, first and foremost, I want to thank Delta Kappa Gamma for putting this on. I know Ms. Beth and Danielle Miles have put a lot into the effort to get us here tonight and to be able to answer your questions, to let you know a little bit more about who we are as candidates and what we propose to do over the next 4 years. I think that's very important. I'm Kyle South, 33 years old, because that's the first question I get everywhere I go. I know most of you in the room, but everybody likes to know that. Born and raised here in Fayette. Graduated from Fayette County High School. Went 2 years to Bevel State before transferring to the University of Alabama and graduated from Alabama in marketing. At the time that I graduated at the university, actually within a month, my grandfather passed away, which owned West Alabama TV Cable, and my grandmother asked me to come back home to steer the ship. So I feel very fortunate to be able to move back home and run a local business, a family-owned business, because not enough of our children are afforded that opportunity these days, and we've got to go a long ways to correct that problem. So just a little bit, I was public education. I've got 2 children, Ava Grace and Kylie, that are 7 and 3. They're in the school system, or Ava Grace is in the school system, Kylie will be. Education is very important And public education, as you all know, throughout District 16 is very important. Not only is it our education process, but it's also the lifeline of the economy in our area. You know, the majority of the jobs across the entire district are education or education related. And that's very important. We got to keep people employed, got to keep the economy going. Just real quick, I wanted to go through, I had jotted down some notes. Going back to kindergarten, Becky Cross was my first teacher at Fed Elementary School back in the day. Myra Nicholson, she's not here tonight, was my first grade teacher. And honestly, how she passed me, I'll never know. I missed like half the year due to a football injury, and then all sorts of ailments where I had to be homeschooled for part of the year and things of that nature. So she put up with a lot, and to this day she kids me about it. You know, going through second grade, Miss Hillis, third grade, Miss Collins, fourth grade, Miss Cotton. Interesting note about Miss Cotton, and I tell this story a lot. Most of you know her, Indian American, great lady. The first thing when we came in to class every morning, she made us get up at the front of the class. A different person had to do it every day, and point out different places on the map as we sang God Bless America. Still sticks with me today. It's probably the only reason I know every word to that song. So, Miss Harkins in 5th grade, you know, and then you get to 6th grade and so on, you start changing classes and all that kind of stuff. And a few names that stick out to me right off the bat, Miss Holloman. She was great. She was going through probably the toughest bout I've ever seen somebody go through. When I was actually in her class, and for her to have the courage and the passion to be there, even dealing with what she was dealing with, it sticks out in my mind a lot. Miss Jacobs in 7th grade, that kind of speaks for itself if you know her. Mr. McCollum, Coach McCollum in 8th grade, he had a different philosophy about teaching. We'll leave it at that. Coach McDonald in the 9th grade, and that goes sports and in the classroom too. He was a good guy. He's somebody that I can call on today that I know will be honest and upfront with me, and really has given me a lot of punch, you know, through my life. Got me a scholarship in college too, so I owe a lot to him. Miss Trice in the 10th grade, English class. In the 11th grade, and I was hoping she would be here tonight, but Miss Gilreed, all the kids, none of the kids liked Miss Gilreed in school because she was the hard teacher. I appreciate that, probably more today than I did then, but I appreciated it then. That was actually my favorite class, U.S. History, and we need our U.S. history. We got to know what's happened in the past and how we got to where we are today, and I appreciate her a lot for that. Miss Phillips in the 12th grade for trig and calculus, and I gave Miss Phillips a hard time, and I apologize to her about that. But you know, and it wasn't just the teachers, but all of those people molded who I am today. Coach Tucker, Miss Sue, you know, is like a second set of parents. You know, and it wasn't just the teachers, it was support staff. Miss Anderson was the guidance counselor while I was in school, and you know, it takes a collective effort to come together to provide for what the kids need, and that goes from the top of the top to the bottom of the bottom. You know, we still couldn't be there without our lunchroom staffs, all the way down the line, and every person is just as important as the next, because without all, the system just doesn't flow properly. Like I said, I've got 2 daughters in the school system here locally. I look forward to them having the same experiences that I do. You know, we're in a small area. All of our school systems are small school systems for the most part. There's nothing like having your child in a class that if there's a problem, you get a text message from the teacher that night, You get a personal phone call. You know, people in metropolitan areas don't get that. That's something that we have. And it means a lot as a parent to have that security. And, you know, I think that's one of the biggest things that we've got going is the parent-teacher relationships, and we need to grow those and everybody afforded those opportunities. As far as, you know, the next 4 years, we've got to figure out a way in the state budgets to get more money to the classroom. We can sit here and beat the drum all day. The kids are what's important. The teachers have to be taken care of, because if the teachers aren't taken care of, the kids are not going to get properly educated. But I think, you know, it's crazy to think that teachers are having to take money out of their own pocket to buy supplies for a school class. I mean, that just, you know, we got to use a little bit of common sense and find those funds for that. I know at the first of this year, like many of you parents and things, you know, we're asked to bring a list of items to the classroom to provide for the kids. I'm the first one to sign up and be willing to do that. Some people can't afford to do that, and then it's really not some of those kids' parents' obligation to have to do that. That's why we pay our taxes, and that turned around to provide for our school systems. One thing, you know, that's big, you in education have a very good source and a very good person speaking on your behalf in David Bronner for the retirement systems of the state. It doesn't get any better than that. He is well versed in what he does, and moving forward, I'd like to keep that line of communication open so that we can provide what information to him that we need to through the state, and he can provide his information back for corroboration. I know something big to all of you. PHIP this past year was a huge, huge burden on you guys and the state government. You know, being in a small business, everybody feels the effects of it. You know, we've got insurance premiums that you know went up 35-40% in 1 year. You know, that was for the state was a $212 million hit to the education budget that luckily they were able to take care of. And moving in the future, it's got to continue to be taken care of, because that's a huge positive for teachers going forward. You know, it's like I tell our employees at the cable company, we may not pay as much as everybody else, but the best thing I can do is try to take care of you. And that's one of the major things, because you're not only taking care of them, but you're taking care of their families at the same time. And those are important to keep those costs down as much as we can. Everybody's facing it, and we've got to continue to grow in that region. You know, I think of that $212 million, $107 million was actually borrowed from the PHIP savings account. And, you know, it's, we can't continue to borrow from that. I'm done. Okay. So,
You have questions?
Questions now? Yes, Ms. Betty.
I tried to help the past, and you know what? You have one question, so you got 5 minutes to explain.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's big, because it affects current employees, retirees, all the way down the line, and we have to continue to fund that and make sure that we don't get in those situations where we have $212 million surprises. And you know, for the most part, we can thank our federal government for that one, but we don't have a choice in it. So we deal with it, and we deal with it as they come, and make sure that we're prepared for obstacles like that in the future.
Okay, since, if it is okay with the other candidates, since he has time and he had one question, would you allow him to take questions from the floor? Okay.
Anybody?
Question for Mr. South?
Charter schools, what does that mean to the public schools in Alabama?
I'm not real sure how that affects. I'd like to see the data that they collect on that. I am not a proponent of charter schools in that we do a pretty good job educating our kids in District 16, and it's all public schools. There's no private schools in the district, and I think we do just fine. Yes, sir.
Hey Kyle, during your recent run or your current run, what's one thing that you've learned about government that you didn't know before? What's one of the main things you can just share with us?
Brent, the biggest thing that I've learned is it's a relationship business. Whether it's a constituent or an association member in Montgomery or another candidate, on down the line, it's all about building relationships, and nothing gets done without having those relationships, and that's been my goal. Because just like you, if you and I didn't have a relationship, you may not feel comfortable coming to me with a problem or an issue. And it goes the same way in the opposite direction. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Kyle, AEA has taken a real hit, supposedly, from the Republicans in the state legislature. What do you see as the future for AEA?
The future for AEA, AEA needs to be strong to promote the teachers in their positions, advocating for everything up and down the line for the education field. The state needs a strong AEA. I'm not sure how that moves forward. I know familiar with some of the issues that they've been facing. We need, both groups need to reach across lines and mend some fences and be able to work together going forward.
Anyone else?
Well, thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate your time. Ms. Beth, appreciate y'all putting this
Thank you
together.
so much for coming.
And I will be around for any questions afterwards as well.
Thank you. Mr. Bowden.
Good evening. I'm Daniel Bowman, and I'm currently the state representative for House District 16. I was elected 4 years ago, and I have basically hung my hat on public education. I want to thank Delta Kappa Gamma for having this event. I always think it's a great event, whether it's, no matter what the forum is, I think it's great for people to come out. I wish there were more people here. I wish more people cared about what was going on in state and federal politics, government, but they don't. They feel like they just don't, their voice doesn't matter anymore. I'm 39, I'm from Sullivan, Alabama, I'm an attorney. Fallon is my wife. Fallon is a graduate of Hubble. She has a store here in Fayette. We have 3 children. Brooklyn's 10, JD's 9, Cruz is 6. When I heard you read the mission of the Delta Kappa Gamma, you're talking about growth in women educators. And the first thing that I think you have to do when you talk about the growth of anything is you have to have equality. And right now, I just do not think there's equality for women educators. And the field is dominated by women. And so I think what we're going to have to do to see that growth is we're going to have to make sure that women are getting paid for the same work, exactly what men are. They're getting promoted just as fast as the men are, or faster, since they dominate the field. Education solves everything. It breaks down barriers all across all fields. It's the only thing that can diminish poverty. Right now in this district, poverty is at an all-time high. Jobs they've left us. And the only way, it used to be a person could graduate Fayette High School, Hubbardville, Berry, any school in the district, and they could go right down the road and get a high-quality paying job and support their family. You can't do that right now. So what has to happen is we have to provide the tools starting all the way in pre-K, through elementary, through high school, come to this school here for 2 years and transfer. As Kyle told you, he did that, I've done that. There's been a lot of successful people in this area that have used Bevel before he stepped into it. That education prepares our kids and our people and our citizens to go to whatever university they want and then come back and start a business. It's just too hard right now to start your own business here without any education. You have to understand what's going on in the business world. Education reduces poverty. One of the things that I'm a big proponent of is not everybody is meant to go to college. Not everybody wants to go to college. What we have to do is identify who wants to go to college and who does not. And we have to do it at early on in school. Alabama has a high dropout rate. That is one of the biggest issues that we have in this state. About 50% of our kids are dropping out right now. What does that mean? Well, when those kids drop out, that's more government assistance. That's a bigger burden on the people that are working. That has to stop. Education would do away with that. But for the kids that don't want to go to college, what's the answer? We have to focus on vocational and technical training. That has to be identified, I would say, in the 7th grade. Some people say the 9th, I think the earlier the better. And I think what's got to happen is we've got to find a way to fund vocational and technical training so our kids have a trade. There's a lot of kids that are sitting out there today that have a degree that don't have a job. But if you know how to weld, if you know how to be a carpenter, if you're a plumber, if you're an electrician, you can start your own business right now in Fayette, Lamar, rural parts of Tuscaloosa, and you would be successful. Our kids are not getting that training. There's not enough of it. I think even once they are identified at the 7th grade level and they continue that skill all the way through, I think our 2-year systems, like Bevel, need to be funded to provide that. I think they need to be funded now for the people that are out there that are unemployed to give them opportunity to go back and get that skill. Because right now, if you're a coal miner in Berry and that mine closes down, and the only reason it closed down is because God didn't put any more coal there, what are you going to do? Now, you still have a family to feed, you still have bills to pay. Some of them took a job over at Brookwood. That doesn't help everybody. So there has to be not only education for our kids, there's got to be education for those people that are unemployed right now. There's got to be a tool for them. I told you, one of the first things I said when I started was I'd hung my hat on public education. For 4 years, I have fought for the teachers. I fought against the drop. Drop was a bad thing overall. I have a big problem with some of our coaches that were making the money they were. I had a problem with people at AEA making the money they were. But I didn't have a problem with the kindergarten teacher that was going to be her retirement, who had put in 23 years and needed 2 more years. And now we snatched it away from her. It's not right. Not right at all. I don't care what side of the line you're on, drop should be here for K through 12 and professors at the junior college level. The ones at Alabama, the ones at Auburn, Troy, those coaches, they make enough to where they're fine. Tenure. I fought against the tenure bill. Tenure bill is one of the biggest bills I fought against. Not because I think it protects bad teachers. There is a mechanism for removing bad teachers, for removing them. I did not want to be able to see a teacher be fired because she wasn't on the right political side of a race. That bothered me. Teaching should not be a political job. Teaching should be about the kids, and politics should not come into it. Retirement in P. Hill. Right now, as an educator in this state, you're making less money today than you were 4 years ago. Cost of living is still went up. That's the problem. We expect educators in this state to pay stuff out of their pocket while their pay is going down. Something's just not right. But I was in Barry yesterday, and I was meeting with the elementary principal over there, and we were talking. She told me that the schools in Fayette County pay their phone bill by fundraising. I did not know that. That's a problem to me. Not as a state representative, that's a problem as a parent. We are selling products to our kids, and we have a lot of poor kids in our school anyway, to pay our phone bills, to pay for the paper towels. All right, that's not right. That's not why you go to school, that is not why you have school. Now, it's real easy to point out what's wrong. It's a whole different thing to have a solution. What's the solution with the phone bill? To be honest with you, this guy yesterday, so I don't know. But I can tell you this, it deserves some serious attention. It deserves to be factored into the school budget, I can tell you that. Because there is, by the time they sell those snacks and they make $30 or $40 a day, and then you've got the summer, well, they're having to make sure they're having to raise money when they don't even have kids there. That's not the job of an educator. It's not. The job of the educator is to make sure that that student is equipped to go on to the next level, whatever it may be. Kindergarten, first grade, sixth grade, eighth grade, PhD. And then once they do that and they obtain that level of education, especially females, then what it does is when the women become more informed like they are, and they're dominating in the workplace like they are, because they have the education, and a lot of men are doing manual stuff, what that does is healthcare gets better, poverty goes down, the burden on society goes down, because now then you are educated enough that most educated women do not have, their families are usually smaller. And so, once again, education is the key.
I finished that sentence.
Education is the key to everything, and that's why I stand with it.
Thank you. I hope there's more than one question in there. During your campaign 4 years ago, you promised to establish a fund for education and contribute your salary to the fund. Where is the fund?
All right. There is no fund, and the reason there is no fund is because when I started on that adventure, what I found out was by the time that money accumulated, there would absolutely be no, the need was now. The need was not in 4 years. So what I have done with that money is I've taken that money and I have bought blinds, I've donated to the schools, I've given kids blankets, I've given kids jackets, I've taken snacks to the school, I've paid for Letterman's jackets, I've paid for class rings, I have paid for tuition, I have paid for books. I have bought laptops, and I'm sure there's more, but that's where it's
The
going.
list that go on. Why did you not vote for the 2% raise last session?
That is the question that I probably get the most, and it wasn't that I didn't want to vote for it. We had, you have to have 53 votes to pass a bill in the House. We had 47. Dr. Mabry of AEA was on the first floor. We were discussing amendments. I thought I had plenty of time to get these amendments while I was off the floor. It was called for a vote. I missed the vote. So it wasn't the fact that I didn't want to, it was we needed to figure out a way to get an amendment to try and increase to get to 53, and I just wasn't on the floor at that point in time.
Why were you absent and did not vote on the last education budget item? I think we might need to know which budget item we're discussing here, to be fair.
To my knowledge, that was the last one.
Oh, that, the raise. Okay, I will read it verbatim. We would like an explanation as to why a bill which would have something 40%, 40% of a 1 cent sales tax for education in Fayette County was not passed. Our local paper quoted you as saying it did not come out of the local legislature committee of the House because the chair of the committee had resigned. Since the committee did not meet under the chairmanship of the vice chair and local legislature, for other counties and cities were approved by the committee, but the legislator for Fayette County education was not approved because you, the sponsor of the bill, did not show up. Can you please explain this?
And it had nothing to do with not showing up. What happened was the bill was introduced, we had it run in the paper for 6 weeks, and when we finally got it introduced, after it cleared the time in the paper, then it went to local, I had to introduce the bill after it had run in the paper for the 6 weeks. When I introduced the bill, we had changed the clerk in the House, and what had normally happened, that was on a Tuesday. What normally happens is you get a certified copy of where it ran in the paper from the paper that you ran it in. And then what you do is you turn that in. Well, because we had a new clerk, he would not accept a certified copy. He wanted the originals out of the newspaper. So, okay. So, instead of introducing the bill on that Tuesday, I drove back, and I don't like to bring up other names, but I told Judge Oswald, hey, this is what's going on. He said, I've never heard of it. I said, I've never heard of it either. All right, so I come back here, go to the paper, get the articles, turn them in. That was on a Thursday. All right, so they should have been turned in on that Tuesday. And for that, I take blame for it. I mean, I could have asked that question, and for that, I didn't do. So when it was time for it to come out of committee, when I went to Greg's office, Greg pled guilty on that day. So I did burn a day by not getting the original copies instead of the certified copies.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we will now move to our superintendent candidates, and we will begin with Mr. Jim Burkhalter.
I'm like Kyle, I'm not big on this microphone either. So I may move around when I talk. If I get to talking too fast, just raise your hand. My wife does it home all the time. Because I kind of get carried away every once in a while, especially when I get excited about what I got to say. I'd like to thank Delta Kappa Gamma and Ms. Fuller and everybody here for putting this on. It's an enjoyment for me to be here tonight and speak with you. This is the first time I've ever entered these waters before, but I've had thoroughly enjoyed the last 9 or 10 months doing it. I'm Jim Burkhalter. I work at Fayette County High School. Everybody knows my wife, Allison. And I've got 3 boys. Dre's at the University of Alabama. Brock is a senior, and Brady is at the middle school game. He's in the 7th grade. I a teaching coach at Fayette County High School. The reason I teach and coach there is they gave me a job before Hubbell and Barry did. If Barry and Hubbell would have hired me, I'd have gone there first. Okay? I remember my first day on the job here back in the fall of 1987. I was in there with Coach Ivy Hughes. He said, Coach, how long you plan to stay? I said, I plan to stay 3 or 4 years. I'm going to take a head job. I'm going to get gone. Okay? And I tell this story a lot. And that was 28 years ago, 26 years ago. But Coach Hughes made a comment sitting behind the desk. Sometimes people don't leave when they get in this county. That's what you're talking about. He said sometimes coaches and teachers don't ever leave. You like it here. You love it. Great place to raise your family. Great county to live in, and you stay. Didn't think much about it. I started running as superintendent in January, and that's exactly where I'm at today. Okay, 28 years later, I'm running for superintendent of education, and I can't think of a better place or a better county to do it in than Fayette County. Okay, numerous opportunities to leave. I don't toot my own horn much. My wife will tell you that. I've had numerous opportunities to leave. Left one time. Came home, Alice was crying, Brock was crying, Trey was crying. You had made the wrong decision. So they let me come back to Fayette County High School, and I've been here 28 years. And like I said, I'm proud to be running for superintendent of education. 3 things you probably need to know about. Because I don't have a cable company. Okay, and I don't have a shop downtown and wish to dead. I'm an educator. I'm not real sure if I'm Democrat or Republican. I'm just an educator. That's all I can do. I can't build anything. I can't tile. I don't do anything but work with our youth and our students at any age or level that they ask me to work at. That's the most important goal that I have, most important thing that I do. Okay, my wife can tell you, something needs painted at the house, she'll have to call somebody, because I can't do it. Not that I want, I can't. I've tried. All right, when I make decisions at Fayette County High School, and when I talk, I don't mean Fayette County High School, I mean the county, on a county-wide basis. Okay, I put the children first. Okay, I think our children come first in the educational society, not the parents. When I make a decision, I make it what's best for the child or the student that I'm dealing with. Okay, sometimes it offends the parents, but I think we have to make decisions based on their needs. And the third thing you probably need to know about me is I'm not afraid of change. Okay, some people are. I'm not. Okay, everybody's asked me about the Common Core standards and everything that's going on in the educational society today. The 8th grade students last spring in the state of Alabama ranked 49th in math. Okay? And like I told my wife the other night, we got an argument, not an argument, a discussion, let me say. When I heard Mr. Bayh speak last week, if you can do your daughters or sons 9th or 10th grade math homework, maybe it's too easy. You know, it's more than one way to get the correct answer, but maybe it's too easy. I don't want Brady, who will be in the 8th grade next year, to have the same standards and objectives that I had at Gordo in 1977. When you rank that low, changes need to be made, okay? At the local level and at the state level. The Plan 2020 and everything involved. That's the reason I'm not opposed to change, and I don't have a problem with change at all. I think it's an education or school and the county, you have to set educational goals. I think they ought to be obtainable and they ought to be presentable. For instance, I don't think we can expect to hire the Algebra 2 teacher at Spain Park High School. I think that's an unrealistic goal. Ms. Butler tell you the same thing. We talk about this on a daily basis. What we need to do is graduate Cash Ellison from Fayette County High School or Brent Brigham. I'm just picking out two in the crowd. Send them to the University of Alabama. Bring them back as math teachers, or Auburn. I didn't step on anybody's toes. Send them to Auburn. Bring them back as math teachers one day. Work with them and make Hoover and Spain Park want what we've got. You know, you got to set them and they got to be obtainable, but they got to be realistic. And we can have that in this county. You know, we just got to maximize our efforts and push people every once in a while. You know, Mr. Madden does that at his high school. We push the teachers sometimes, and they don't like it sometimes. Okay? Got a couple of them smiling, but you have to do what you think is best. And your goals have to be realistic. And And, you know, like I said, Mr. Bowman said, not all our kids are going to college. Okay, they're not all going to college. They can learn a trade, they can do various things, but they have to have a high school education, basic skills to be able to do that and obtain that. Okay, and that can come from any 3 schools in the county. I got a prime example. Let me get some more of that cancer like to kill me 5 years ago. A lot of people ask me, Coach, what are you most proud of? And these guys sitting in here playing for me, I'll tell you that. You know, I was fortunate enough to get nominated, and I won an award last spring on Coaches That Make a Difference. Didn't have any idea. I won a 3A award state level. Didn't have any idea I was going to get it. Proud I won it, okay? Is it the 500 baseball wins? Absolutely not. Is it because I've had 50 play college baseball? Absolutely not. That's not the reason I coach. I get accused of that a lot, but that's the reason I'm not in education. I go back today, and the reason I coach is I look at the 96 team. I didn't go back to Cash in them because they're not long in their career. I have no idea what he's going to do or what any of those kids that graduated the last 4 or 5 years are going to do. But I went back to the 96 team. Okay? Miss Tugger had a son on that team. We won 33 ball games. Most we ever won at Fayette County High School. But off that team, the top 11 players, 2 have business degrees, 2 are engineers, 1 mechanical and another engineer. We've got 1 electrician, we've got 1 business owner, we've got 3 teachers, we've got 1 doctor, and then we've got a long-bearded DEA agent that I don't know where he lives. Okay? So you say, well, they're all from a Fayette County school. Okay? And I'm just picking, I coach at Fayette. Same thing happens at Hubble, same thing happens at Berry. Okay? Doesn't matter where you're from. It's got nothing to do with it. But all these kids played here. Okay? They went to school at Fayette County High School or Berry Hubble. Okay? Everybody's got their own examples. Okay? And that's the reason. That's what makes life enjoyable. Okay? You know how many kids I've got playing Major League Baseball? None. Okay? None. I've got none made it to the major leagues, and I don't know how many hundreds I've coached. Okay? But look at all the kids that have come through our high school that are coaching, teaching, or they did something. Okay? They did something and came back home, and they're going to do great and wonderful things, and they're not all from Homewood, and they're not all from Hillcrest to Tuscaloosa. They're from Fayette County. You have to use your resources, okay, and take what you've got and have a burning desire, and you can do whatever you want to, okay? As far as an academic standpoint, and it may not work out just exactly the way you want it to, okay? But as long as you've got a chance, you can do it, okay? And our kids don't have to remediate that much when they go to college. You know, I've heard all those things, okay? And that's probably the biggest knock on me. Everywhere I go, everybody knows I'm the baseball coach. Cash and them will tell you they've been with me fair. They know that. They don't know that I'm the assistant principal. Okay? And I'm not saying that's my fault or their fault, or whose fault it is. Okay? But that's the reason I decided to run for superintendent of education. There's 3 things I'd like to implement if I get elected. Or try to change. 1 is attendance policy. Okay? I don't see how a child can learn if they don't come to school. Okay? We've talked about this on a daily basis at Fayette County High School. What policy, I don't know. Haven't looked into it. I know Pelham just adopted one. But I know a child that does not come to school, is not introduced to the standard, not introduced to the objective, cannot retain and pass the material. Okay? We do have a high dropout rate. We have a high dropout rate because our students don't come to school. Kids come to school and pass. Didn't say he had to do loads of homework. He's got to come to school, sit in the desk, focus, pay attention. Okay? And he's got a chance to pass and graduate and do whatever he wants to. The kid that doesn't come to school has a hard time. To promote teachers, I told you a minute ago. Never mind. If you got a question, I'll do my best to answer.
You can have it. We'll see. If they don't have a question, you can tell us your other 2 points.
No, it doesn't matter.
Here they come.
All right.
All right. What would be your actions toward pay raises based on years of service?
If it's I like that idea. I think you gotta give the teachers an incentive, okay? First of all, they gotta wanna come to work, okay? And if they're from Fayette County and they were raised here, they gotta be happy when they get there. And if they're happy when they get there, they'll do a better job, okay? So I think, like I said before, we need to set up a plan, as far as teachers and stuff, and recruit kids back, students back that went to school in Fayette County. Okay, not necessarily somebody went to Hufford, go back and teach at Hufford, but they may teach at Fayette, they may teach at Fayette. And if they're, the job opens for them at that school and they meet the requirements, sure. Okay, if they're the best qualified person, put them in. But absolutely, I think years of service, if you've been in education 25 to 30 years, you may deserve a few dollars more than somebody just getting started.
Do you feel that Common Core should be improved and upheld or dismissed? What steps will you take?
Common Core, all right, golly, like I said, if you rank 49th or 50th in math, okay, need to change some things. And I'm not saying that's Fayette County where we rank, but what I read last spring, statewide 8th grade ranked 50th in math, okay? Common Core standards, you gotta realize that 96% of the Alabama standards were already there. We took in 4 or 5, I guess, national standards and I guess global standards. So we wouldn't be separated from Kentucky and Ohio and all the other schools and maybe catch up with some of the countries that are ahead of us. So, I like parts of the Common Core. I'm not saying every bit of it, but I do like parts of the Common Core and what it brings and some of the standards it brings.
What steps should be taken in order for male and female high school athletics to be equally funded?
Equally funded. I'll take the next skill. I'm just kidding. Can't you pass? Don't I get a Jeopardy pass or something? No, listen.
If you skip, I get the answer
No.
for you.
I've been asked that question 1,000 times, okay? And I think at Fayette we do a pretty good job. Some may disagree with me, okay? Some may disagree. I think a lot of it, and I'm not stepping on any toes, depends on how hard the coach or teacher works. If you wanted this there, it's obtainable, okay? I'm just telling you, and it's like I said, Mr. Bowman alluded to it, it's fundraisers and it's various other things, okay? Should the basketball coach make the same as the girls' basketball coach, boys? Yeah, probably so.
I think, not to intercede, but I think what they're asking is not coach's salary, but maybe,
More sports.
no, I think what they're asking, and whoever asked this question, they're asking like each sport get equal allotments, not necessarily coaching salary.
Allotment is coaches or money.
If the girls' baseball team needs new uniforms and the boys' baseball team, softball,
I got
needs
you.
new uniforms, that the girls' team would have allotments also for their uniforms. I don't want to misinterpret someone's
When I buy
question.
mine, we fundraise.
I
for
don't
it.
want to
don't know.
misinterpret the question, if that's off balance.
We get very little money from the Board of Education, and what we do is we raise, and, I've got a great booster club, and we work extremely hard, and, I know softball does, and football does, and basketball does, and we raise, about every dime that we spend, and so do they, so, I don't know if it's equal or not, but got equal opportunity, if that
Okay.
makes any sense.
Can cell phone policy be countywide?
I won't let Coach Shipman answer that.
No.
I'm just kidding. I think it should be. I think every principal should sit down at the high school level, and I think it's the same. If one school uses them in the classroom, every school should. And I think if you use them down the hall at Fayette County High School, you ought to do it very hopefully. Yeah, I think the teachers ought to sit down, the principals, administration sit down, and I think the cell phone policy should be standard, yes ma'am, throughout the county. I agree with that. No problems.
Do you still have time? All right,
Well, 10 seconds.
10 seconds, all right, anybody have a question? Do we have a question? Yes.
We have,
talking to several parents that this Common Core,
Yes, sir.
they have a hard time trying to help with their kids' homework, especially the lower levels.
Yes, sir.
And a couple of them told me they just send them back to school and say, y'all the ones getting paid to do the jobs.
Yes. Basically what the Common Core, if I read it correctly, you've got 10th grade standards are now being taught in the 8th grade. And you got 11th being taught in 9th and so on. So we've kind of bundled them down. And like I said earlier, that's made, my wife and I talked about it the other night. That's a big thing. That's a big thing. Just like Mr. Bice, Tommy Bice said the other day, when we went to Florence to listen to him, if you can do, not 3rd or 4th grade, but if you can do your 9th or 10th grade Algebra 2 trig homework, and you're not a math major, then maybe that's too easy. And that includes me and everybody else involved, if that makes any sense. Because I want the standards to be a little bit harder for a lot harder for my children than they were when I was in school 30 years ago. I think it only makes common sense.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I will say, Mr. Shipman had the honor of escorting his daughter Sally at the middle school ball game tonight, homecoming. And we turn it over to you.
Well, that's one of the reasons I'm late, and I'm supposed to be back at halftime, so this may be a very short delivery. But she is in the court tonight, and I'm very honored by that, but I'm just as honored to be your superintendent and have served in that capacity over the last 4 years. It's certainly an honor that I don't take lightly, and I'd like to have that honor continue. But I also would like to thank Bevel State Student Government Association, Delta Kappa Gamma, and its local chapter of, I think it's Alpha Xi, for hosting this event tonight, and I want to thank Mrs. Fulmer for being the moderator. 4 years ago when I ran, I was much like Coach Burkhalter. I was running without a record, and now I'm a superintendent with 4 years under my belt. So one of the things I thought I would do today was just share some of the things we've done while I've been in office. We have successfully implemented the Alabama's College and Career Standards up to this point. Now, I will say there were some questions with Mr. Burkhalter about the College and Career Readiness Standards. I will say this about those standards, and that is that Alabama has created their own set of standards. It's not the Common Core. We've blended our standards with the Common Core, and it's our own unique standards. As for me, if Alabama ever decides to change those standards, which they have in the past, we will follow the standards that our State Board of Education creates for us, and that's how we'll guide our local county. Now, our local county has the ability to develop our own curriculum in line with those standards. And that's our job to make that curriculum work for us. We've begun a one-to-one technology initiative at Berry High School. That's an initiative that eventually I'd like to go countywide. That initiative, the state of Alabama is looking at passing what's called the Alabama Ahead Act. And in that act, it's supposed to provide funding for digital curriculum, for one-to-one computers, so that we can not just have digital textbooks, but we can also use that for some of our testing purposes as well. But that's a really important piece of that legislation, so I hope that that's something that will eventually be promoted from the state level. It's been presented as a bill, I believe, the last 2 years, and that's on the agenda to occur. We did accept a waiver for the bring your own device technology, and I do differ a little bit with the policy. We have a policy in place for cell phones, and what we have done is we've granted each principal the ability to have a waiver if they want to try to use that technology in their classrooms. It makes sense, and I believe all but one of our schools does that, and I think at some point they will as well. But what that does is it allows our schools and our kids to use the technology that they have. Smartphones, they can take those into the classroom, they can use the calculator off of it, they can use it to search for current events, and that's taking place in a lot of our classrooms right now. We began an energy conservation program in order to reduce the amount of energy, the amount of money we spend on energy in our school system. Currently, we spend over $750,000 a year in utility usage. And that's the number that needs to come down. We need to find ways through the monitoring of thermostats, just educate our employees to trying to use a variety of solutions. We did have a half position hired. Russell Bagwell was employed in that position, but unfortunately because of budget cuts, we couldn't keep that. But we're trying to find creative ways to continue that program forward because I think it's that important. We made several improvements in school safety. One of the things we did was at the middle school, we have over half of our students in our county that either unload or get on the bus at Fayette Middle School, between Fayette Middle School and Fayette Elementary School. One of the things we did is we repaved that and restriped that entire area, creating crosswalks and creating a more safe environment for our kids so that when we have all those kids in that location at one time, we can monitor that situation much better. We've replaced countless doors and locks, security cameras, we've repaired, replaced, we've added to make all of our schools safer than what they were before. We've reduced our budget by over $500,000. Over $90,000 of that reduction came out of the central office itself. A lot of people think, well, that central office is overstaffed. Well, I guarantee you it is not. And we've done that to bring our budget more in check. One of my priorities 4 years ago was to restart the pre-K programs in our county. And I'm proud of the fact that we now have 2 programs. I'll be even prouder when we have 3 programs in each one of our communities. We successfully made arrangements with Head Start to move into our old ABC building. They are there now, and that's an arrangement that I hope that we can continue for many years to come. It really helps our community. I've supported all the band programs in the county, and I'm excited with the fact of the quality of programs that they all now have. We created a student work study program so that student workers could help with maintenance projects during the summertime, helping to get more work done in our schools and paying some of our students at the same time. I believe that was really wildly successful, and if our budget ever allows it again, I'd like to continue that. We've also developed a strategic plan to guide the direction of our school system. Now, these are some of the things that we've done. I've done my best to run a fair and balanced school system. Kind of sounds like Fox News a little bit. All right? But, you know, the question becomes, what's fair and what's balanced? You know, I've tried to balance the needs of academics and athletics. There's a lot of pull from both of those areas, but academics has to come first. And I believe that I've done that while I've been in office. I said this in my Sunday school class. You know, the problem with fair is people don't always agree with the definition of what fair is. And, you know, a lot of people think that fair is them getting what they want all the time. And unfortunately, you know, no one gets what they want all the time. And that's the reality of public education and probably private education as well. But one of the things that I've wanted to do, and I think we've done, is we've tried our best to hire the best employees we can. Try to have fair employment practices. And I believe that we've accomplished a great deal over a short time. I'm very proud of the fact that none of our schools are what are called focus or priority schools. We're in an 11-county area that's designated by the state. In that 11-county area, we're the only school system with no focus or priority schools or low-performing schools. That's a credit, and I'm not going to take all the credit. That's a credit to everyone. It's our administration, our teachers, our students. It goes to everyone, and especially our parents. I'm also proud of the fact that our system was monitored by the State Department successfully, not once, but twice in the last 4 years. And in February of 2014, we were successfully audited by Advanced Ed. One more thing, over the past 4 years, our school system has received successful financial audits by the State Department, and we're very proud of that. I don't think we've had any findings on an audit basis in over 10 years. We're currently working on purchasing new and replacement textbooks to replace some of our older books in our school system because it's a great need. We've not received enough textbook money from the state to be able to do that. And so now we're looking at replacing some of our old books, but it's kind of a catch-22 because if we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that, and the state turns around and gives us money for a digital curriculum, well then we've pretty much just thrown that money away. So we have to be very careful about how we spend some of our resources. It's kind of like getting the cart ahead of the horse a little bit. As your superintendent, I believe I'm up to the challenges that still face our school system. And I'd like your support to be able to continue to do that. It's not a very easy job. I think most people who get into this position realize that quite fast. But I am asking for your vote in November to continue to lead our county and to do the best for our students. If you have any questions, please contact me. And I'm probably not going to be able to take many questions because I have to go at halftime.
You've got
Sorry.
7 seconds, so we'll just get into it. Just take a couple. Can cell phone policy be countywide?
Technically it is, but we have the ability that each school can vary from that with a waiver.
All right. Do you feel that Common Core should be improved and upheld or dismissed? What steps will you take?
I think I've already answered that. Basically, we are doing our best to implement that as it is. By the way, Alabama has told us. It's not the Common Core. We have Alabama's college and career readiness standards, and I'd like to distinguish the difference. Those are our standards created by our educators at state level. If they change that, I'll go with what the state wants us to do.
Okay. All right. What would be your actions toward pay raises based on years of service?
Did I get the same, we punt that question that we did? All right. Well, merit, there's, I guess there's some merit to either side of this. And, I'm always for paying people better if they're doing a good job. And that's really the question is, are the teachers doing a good job? So I'm for that if they can find a way that we can determine it in a way that's fair.
There's just one more. Somebody must have stepped both boxes. What steps should be taken to make sure that girls and boys sports are equally funded?
Well, I do have a little difference on this take because I do know that one of the things we did shortly after I took office was that we increased coaching supplements in our county. And the way it's been done in our system has been it's up to each school system to decide how they want to break that down. And I would question whether all of our schools do it as equitably as possible. And that's something that really does need to be looked into in terms of whether supplements are what they need to be. Now, the flip side of that is the purpose of why we increased the supplement pay was this. One of the things Coach Burkhalter said was we have to raise money for uniforms and things like that, which is true. One of the reasons why I increased the fundraising or the supplement package was actually to decrease the fundraising, hopefully. I don't know if that's worked very well so far, but that was one of the purposes of doing that.
So you're saying money is sent in that direction, then that coach decides how it's
The
broken
principal
down?
decides how to divide that up at each school. And that's how it's done right now. And I know there's been a number of different ways people have discussed about doing that differently. And that's a distinct possibility as we move forward. Okay. And I apologize for having to run, but I have to run. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, candidates. We so appreciate your time. Thank you, Delta Kappa Gamma members, Danielle Miles, who actually organized this whole event. Couldn't be with us. She's attending the ACE Florida Adult Education Conference, where she is the district chair for Region 3, and that covers 6 states, plus the Virgin Islands, plus Puerto Rico. So she had to go there instead of here, so figure that out. But I do thank the candidates, and I thank the audience. You know, Rush Limbaugh said more people vote for American Idol than they vote in elections. So thank you for caring about these issues, and thank you for coming tonight, and the candidates have agreed to be willing to take further discussion and questions in the foyer. So thank you very much, appreciate it.